Welcome. I'm your humble host, Fizz Ed Music, and this right here, this is Urban Politics. I want to thank you all for liking and subscribing. Liking and subscribing as you do. Please, as soon as you have a chance after this video, take yourself on over to YouTube, like and subscribe, Fizz Ed Music, Urban Politics. But without further ado, I want to get right into it like a car and drive because there's all types of tasty and delicious politics to sink our teeth into. Ladies and gentlemen, let me talk about the hottest story right now. Story people just can't get enough of talking about. Everybody talking about it, right? Target removes LGBTQ pride products after threats and confrontations in certain stores. Uh, Company said on Tuesday that the move would protect the move to take a lot of this LGBTQ and pride paraphernalia off the shelves or whatnot would protect employees after volatile circumstances in some of their 2,000 shops. In some stores, they moved Pride merchandise to the back of the store. Merchandise ranging from rainbow motifs and Love is Love t-shirts. Other stuff includes, what was it? Gender fluid mugs. I didn't know a mug could have a gender, but there's that. Gender fluid mugs. What else they say here? Children's books entitled Bye Bye Binary, Pride 123, and I'm Not a Girl. There's that. Target says after introducing this year's collection, the team has been getting threats that impact the team's sense of safety and well-being while at work. CEO says this is nothing political. In Malaysia, this is interesting. Swatch said that authorities confiscated 106. Now, this has nothing to do with Target. This is something different. But it all kind of goes along with how a lot of municipalities or a lot of people right now are so sensitive to this LGBTQ push or whatever. So sensitive to these issues being I don't know, pushed on their kids, pushed on people, whatever. Here's what's going on in Malaysia, of all places. Malaysia, Swatch, you know the brand, the watch company Swatch, said that authorities confiscated 164 rainbow-colored watches worth $14,000 from its stores. In Malaysia, homosexuality is forbidden. Check that out how it said forbidden. Like it says in the Bible, not illegal, not a crime, but forbidden, which is even worse than a crime, I think, right? So they said it's forbidden. A Muslim majority nation, one can be imprisoned and whooped for gay sex. Wow. So that is the reason why Malaysia ain't having it. You done sent some rainbow colored watches, you know what I'm saying, Swatch watches to a place in Malaysia. They ain't having it. They confiscated them rainbow covered watches, which is like, wow, hold up. And you know what I'm saying? Maybe I wrote it down here. Maybe I didn't. Now I didn't even go that far with it. But as I'm reading that article, you know what I'm saying? The CEO of you know what I'm saying? Swatch Malaysia relations or whatever. He was even saying like, hold up, this ain't even got nothing to do with like people's sexuality. This is just a rainbow colored. That just has to do with being bright and spring and nice and stuff like that. So then he said, what, they gonna run around Malaysia trying to do something about all the rainbows that pop up in Malaysia or something? They're going to start prosecuting people for those. So it's wild. I remember way back in the day, there's a comedian, Bo Burnham, who talked about how he just likes rainbows. He said, but now I wear a rainbow, people think I'm gay. He said, how's it that a whole, unit of people was able to just adopt rainbows? He said, I like rainbows. It ain't got nothing to do with my sexuality. That's funny, ain't it? So there's that. But that shows you right there in Malaysia, they don't mess around. And like they said, Malaysia is, you know what I'm saying? It's one of the you know what I'm saying? It's involved in this my goodness. Can't find it here. Malaysia homosexual has forbidden. Yeah, or this Muslim majority nation. So a lot of these Muslim majority nations, homosexuality is illegal. It's forbidden. It just cannot happen. So they tripping off of rainbow colored watches. All the stuff going on here in the States, blowing me away. I guess it is. I guess it isn't. This has been a long time coming in this country. People had thought that we were past all this and that things were getting better when Barack Obama had made same-sex marriage the law of the land. But I knew that issue was not done there, and I knew that it would rear its ugly head because a lot of people are split on this decision. Oh my lord, I should have. I don't know if I've talked about it here on the show, but I was made aware of it by a person who belongs to this church, and then I started reading articles about how the church, and I'll talk about it in another show, but basically, there's a church right now that has split over this. They've split because some of them, you know what I'm saying, think that people who indulge in that lifestyle are still children of God and still deserve to be a part of their flock, and then there are them of those who don't. So they're splitting on that right now. And I guess they said the last time this took place was like 100 and some years ago over some issue like this. So it's wild right now, but people are really on this. I think politics, like anything else, has made sexuality a football. It's a political football. The right loves to use it. They've been using it. We got all this stuff going on now about transsexuality and homosexuality and people who are homophobic and transphobic and all that type of stuff. So this is all just a part of that, you know, and it's sad. And, well, I don't know what to say about this because I can think I was at Target not too long ago and I saw a lot of this stuff. I saw a lot of stuff, you know, Love is Love t-shirts. And now I didn't see these books talking about Bye Bye Binary and Pride 1, 2, 3 and I'm Not a Girl. I didn't see those books. Would I buy those books for my son? Probably not. Because he has never said anything to me about that being an issue with him. Like I've even talked about it on the show. For whatever reason, my son has very rigid ideas of what's for boys and what's for girls. I didn't put that in his head. But for whatever reason, he feels like that. If you wouldn't talk to him right now, if you try to give him a pink toy, he'd be like, no, that's for girls. If you give him a truck, he'd be like, okay, that's for boys. I don't know where he got that. I know he didn't get it from his mom. He didn't get it from me. But that just is how he is. So that's not an issue in my family. Were it, maybe I would. You know what I'm saying? But I do, like most, all these parents, you have conversations with your kids. And some of this stuff, I think some of these kids are too young to be introduced to this stuff. Now, I'm not going to deal with it just yet. In a minute here, we're going to talk about what had a lot of people up in arms over all this stuff going on at Target. Because this is not the first year that Target has done this. I can remember for like maybe the last 2, 3, 4 years past Target having paraphernalia for Pride. Them having Love is Love t-shirts. Now, I don't know about all these other little books and stuff for kids and all of that, but that ain't nothing new because all these places want to capitalize on whatever you got. Whether it's Juneteenth or it's Pride, they want to capitalize on whatever holiday it is. They want to sell stuff to make money, right? So Target been doing that. I think it got hot right now because of what I'm about to touch on, which was a complete and utter lie. I think some right winger had seen that Target was selling, bathing suits that were tuck friendly bathing suits. They were, but for adults, not for children. And they took it and ran with it and said, Target is out here selling tuck friendly swimwear for kids. That is a lie. That is a lie, ladies and gentlemen. I know you heard it. I heard it too. I thought it was true too and was tripping for a minute there. Come to find out, it's Boulder Dash. It's BS. It ain't real. But that's what happened. The right, they get a hold of something. And how about this? In any good lie and any good storytelling, there's a little bit of truth in any good lie. You're going to tell a good lie, you want there to be a nugget of truth in it. So the nugget of truth is that, yes, Target is selling tuck-friendly swimwear. Not to kids, though. To adults. Not to kids. There's that. Even that right there kind of blew me away because tuck-friendly swimwear. Then I asked myself, is that needed? Now, obviously not needed for me. I don't have those issues. I'm not trying to tuck anything. But then I'm thinking, individuals who are trying to tuck something, how many individuals is that? Is it really enough that they need a whole line of clothing directed towards them? And then how were these individuals tucking before this swimsuit existed? I'm sure there was a way they were handling that need before Target seen it upon themselves to help people out with that need. And see, let me tell you something. The devil's in the details. A lot of these clothing outlets, a lot of these fashion outlets, they do this to be hyperbolic. They do this to be provocative. Because now what are we doing? We're talking about Target. And Target wants you talking about Target. Target wants you talking about Target's swimsuits. It's swim season. They looking to sell swimsuits. This is all marketing. With that said, it's still interesting because it goes, and my point is to this. Are there a lot of people, because they talk about this transgender stuff and this transsexual stuff, and they say, well, what big a percent of the population is that? Now, I've talked about it on this show, how they said 2 in every 2,000 births are people who are morphodites or who are born with both sex organs. So there's that. So I think there's a whole lot more instances of this going on with people than what we know. And some of these people are feeling comfortable and coming out the woodwork. That's a good thing. With that said, does an outlet like Target have to target these people with a certain brand of clothing? Or do they do it because it puts eyes on them? Do they do it because it's something provocative and then people like me and other people's food for fodder, then we could talk about it and it drives up their sales and they don't give a hoot about this community or how it's affected positively or negative by this right here. Now, when their employees start being negatively affected by people coming in there, and they said there was instances of some of this pride clothing and LGBTQ positive clothing being thrown on the floor or thrown about the store, or, you know, people in there probably being upset, you know, who are just workers there. They don't buy this stuff for Target to sell. They just sell it when you come in and want to buy it. I'm sure a lot of them that got into fights verbally and physically over some of this material because a lot of people just don't like it. They're going to take issue with the person right there in front of them holding it in their hand, whether they're the person who brought it to them or not. See what I'm saying? So there's that. But that's the question you really got to ask yourself with a lot of this stuff. What is Target's modus operandi for selling this? Are they selling it because they care? They're trying to change the conversation. They want to let it be known that these are members of our society and they deserve representation. Or are you trying to start some stuff like you done started some stuff? And then starting some stuff and trying to sell some clothes, you done messed around and got some people hurt. Got some people feeling scared to go to work because of what they forced to sell by your company. And they said that the president was all on board with this. And once again, I'm not poo-pooing it, because when I talk about these issues, I come at them from the standpoint of trying to learn, trying to be educated, because I don't get it and I don't understand it. But once again, I'm 47 years old. I don't pretend to be new school at all. This is all new stuff. So I'm learning new things. But with that, we got to be open. But always ask yourself, you know what I'm saying? Why would Target do this? And I really do think Target did that because now it's putting Target in my mouth. You know what I'm saying? Putting Target in your mouth. Got them running around saying, and you know, why are they selling tuck-friendly clothing to babies? They're not. That is ridiculous. Now, that's some right-winger who did that. And they're always hungry to go after this transsexual movement. They're hungry to go after it. Why? Because it's something that a lot of people, like I said, don't know nothing about. They don't understand it. It's different, right? It's other. And when something is different and other, it's easy to demonize it. It's easy to demonize it. Oh, and it's a great political football. It works so well. So they're using it for all it's worth. Remember that as well. Anyway, moving on. I just wanted to talk about that. But remember that, if nothing else, get that from that segment I just gave you right there. Come to find out, Target was not selling tuck-friendly swimming suits to children. They do have tuck-friendly swimming suits. They're for adults and not children. Anyway, moving on. Let's talk about DeSantis. Throwing his hat in the ring for 2024. If you haven't heard, you should heard. You know what I'm saying? Everybody knows DeSantis has gone ahead and jumped up in there. He announced with Elon Musk through Twitter. It was last week. It was a debacle. People were like, why would he choose Elon Musk and Twitter to do that? But you know what I'm saying? All types of tech issues. There were 218 people, I guess, on the site or whatever when he was trying to announce. It ended up crashing, kept crashing. You know, DeSantis was salty. He's like, am I ever going to get to announce I'm coming out, and all that. At the end of the day, I guess they did work some of that stuff out, and he was able to talk about all the little corny crap that DeSantis wanted to talk about. But all anybody could talk about was all the technical difficulties up that led up until, you know, DeSantis was able to talk or whatever pretty smoothly. So I said there's problems. Or this is what I say. There's problems that DeSantis has that are going to keep him from the White House. Now, number one problem DeSantis has is that he's DeSantis. That's not even really one of the problems I got, but I sit here and think about it. His biggest problem is he is who he is, and who he is a dry guy. He's not primetime ready. He doesn't have the charisma. He don't have the sassafras. He does not have the political prowess for that executive spot. That's just my armchair diagnosis of that guy. But I don't think I'm wrong, because they said the donors have a problem with him too, and they said that the dude is dry and he's not interesting. And that's a part of it. You know, as I tell people all the time, politics is it's a popularity contest. You know what I'm saying? And people like the guy who's charismatic. who's interesting to talk to, who's articulate, who can put his words together well, that is not DeSantis. He gives a decent enough speech, but he has the charisma of a wet donut. So ain't nobody feeling that. So that is what it is. But really his biggest problem is Disney and Trump, right? With Disney, he done messed around and got into all this LGBTQ issues. All the stuff he's doing in Florida, trying to erase history and creating a safe place for bigots and racists. Not a good look. Now, a lot of people will say, of course, you as a black man would say that's not a good look. I'm not saying it's not a good look because it makes him a garbage human being, which it does. It's not a good look politically. It's not a good look monetarily. A friend of mine, whose father owns businesses and had our whole life, he had always told me, he said, Edward, that's what he always called me. He said, my problem is I got into a business that's ethnic, and his business was hair. And he told me, he said, it's a decent enough business, but he always told me he wished he had not done that. And I said, why? He said, because that's ethnic. He said, and when it comes to money, you don't want to just be getting black people's money. You want to get everybody's money. You want to get everybody's money, because when it comes to business, you don't care about black people. You don't care about white people. You care about Asian people. You don't care about Spanish people. What you care about is green money. That's the only color that matters when you're doing business. And DeSantis, he done ran afoul with so many groups. He's making it bad in Florida to do business. That's not a good look. When you're the governor of a state, what you want to be able to say is, look how all the prosperity I brought to this state. Look at all these jobs that I was convinced to come to this state. Look at all these companies and outlets that have come to my state. Look at how the rest of the country is saying that my state is a model of economic prosperity. That's what you want to say when you're a governor. Not run out there and talk about how my state is where woke comes to die. You don't want anything coming to your state to die. If anything, you want things coming to your state to live and be financially prosperous. But no, DeSantis' dumb self talks about Florida is the place where wokeism comes to die, where woke comes to die. So he's not a smart guy with that, right? And then too, we can't discount that Trump is on him already. Now, Trump has been calling him Ron DeSantis, and then a lot of people like his other nickname for him, Meatball Ron. I like Ron DeSantis better than Meatball Ron. I think Meatball Ron is just too simple. But how about this? Both of them are sticking. If you go to different places, they call him DeSantis. And if you go to different places, they're calling DeSantis Meatball Ron. So he got the likes of Trump to contend with. That's going to be hard. Because say what you will about Trump, and you can say a whole lot about Trump. If you watch this show, you know I don't dig the dude. I am definitely not a cheerleader of Donald J. Trump. But with all that said, he's a lot more interesting and a lot more charismatic than a DeSantis. I'm sorry. When you put DeSantis and Trump next to each other, you're going to watch Trump. You're not going to watch DeSantis. Because DeSantis is not interesting. Trump is interesting. Trump is an utter buffoon. But he's a hell of a show. Excuse my language, it's a family show, so I don't even want to say H-E double hockey sticks. But guess what? Trump, he's a hell of a show. And that's what's up. DeSantis, like I said, he's a wet donut. He's got all the charisma of a paper bag. So ain't nobody checking for DeSantis like they checking for Trump, even though Trump's an idiot. So he got to go up against him, and I don't think DeSantis will prevail. It just is what it is. Moving on, we're going to talk about the NAACP issues a travel advisory for Florida. Now, see, this all goes back to what I was just talking about with DeSantis messing up the economics of Florida. And that is a good way that's a good way to definitely not be president, but it's a good way to, I guess, governor kind of thrown out the window because now he's making a run for president. He has basically stepped down from being governor, so we'll see who goes ahead and picks up that spot. But I was thinking that was maybe a big deal to him, but then I'm like, probably not, because I'm pretty sure that he had just won, so he would have been on a second term. I think as governor, you can only do 2 terms, so he only had 1 more term left. Why not make a run for president? Because what's the worst that could happen? You don't win, and I don't think he'll be successful in that bid. He'll just be a contributor for Fox News till the day he dies and make a ton of money doing that. So, and that's going to happen either way. Whether he would have had to move on from being governor or, makes his bid for the presidency and loses. Like I said, he'll be a Fox contributor to the day he dies, so who cares? So there's that. The NAACP issuing a warning to black folk about Florida, right? The League of United Latin American Citizens. Okay, hold up. This is something. Okay, let's back up. The NAACP issues a travel advisory for Florida. That was for people who look like me mostly. And then The League of United Latin American Citizens, an LGBTQ advisory group, Equality Florida, previously issued travel advisory. So the League of United Latin American Citizens, they issued a travel warning. And then Equality Florida, which is a group that protects LGBTQ or advocacy rights and does rights for them, they also put out a travel advisory. The NAACP says Florida is openly hostile towards African Americans, people of color, and LGBTQ and individuals. Before traveling to Florida, please understand that the state of Florida devalues and marginalizes the contributions of and the challenges faced by African Americans and other communities of color. Woo! That's deep right there. That's deep right there. And that right there goes to the heart and soul of why DeSantis is an idiot. Here you go running afoul of minorities. Here you go running afoul of black and brown people. And if you know anything about black and brown people, we spend money. That's what we do. We do that better than anybody else. Don't nobody spend money like black folk. So why would you want to turn off people who are poised to spend a bunch of money in your state? That's what he's doing, right? Florida, let's talk about that. Florida tourism. I've been to Florida. I love Cocoa Beach. Cocoa Beach is the bomb. You know what I'm saying? I haven't been to Florida in a while. And then, like I said, people who look like me obviously dig Florida. And Florida makes a whole lot of money from what? Tourism. How much do they make? Let's see. Florida tourism. 137.6 million people visited Florida in 2022. Tourism contributes 101.9 billion with a B dollars to the state economy and supported 1.7 million jobs in 2021, ladies and gentlemen. Them are some huge numbers. Let me say them again because like I said, men lie, women lie, but the numbers, they don't lie. Check out them numbers again. Hold up. $101.9 billion to the state's economy was added through tourism, and it supported 1.7 million jobs in 2021. That's a whole lot of money. That's a whole lot of jobs. And as a governor, you should be real uncomfortable when you're playing with all these cultural games and all these political games that are poised to make that money just walk right up out of your state. You know, a good half of that, if not more, he could end up losing doing all this stupid stuff that he's doing. The ULAC, or I went up here and said it. The ULAC, which is the go here. I believe toward yes. That's the oh my lord, people of color that covers LGBTQ people's rights and such like that. That is the League of United Latin American Citizens. There it is. So the ULAC is the United Latin American Citizens. They cover, you know what I'm saying, LGBTQ issues, LGBTQ plus issues, right? And their president, Domingo Garcia, called the new immigration laws hostile and dangerous, adding they present an clear and present danger to Latinos. Florida is a dangerous and hostile environment for law-abiding Americans and immigrants. That is what Mr. Domingo Garcia said. So see what I'm saying? Right there, they're running afoul of the LGBTQ community. They're running afoul of the black and people of color community. What is there left but the people who DeSantis has been making a safe place for? Bigots and what? White males, you know? And there it is. But he's stupid with that because that's not enough to keep your state going. That's not enough money and that's not enough dollars to keep Florida at where it needs to be at. You know, when you turn off all these people of color, when you turn off all these gay and lesbian people, you're turning off a lot of money, a whole lot of dollars from your state. And he thinks that's going to win him the presidency. He is sadly mistaken. It will not, because nobody likes losing money. I guarantee you in Florida, they're not digging that. And right now, they some of them might think they're okay with it. Yeah, well, we don't want all that. We can get them liberals out of here and all that. We don't need it. Florida don't need it. Okay, we'll see where you at in a year or two without that money. You know, you're going to be hurting. Then you're going to be begging the federal government for money, and then the federal government going to turn around and say, hold up. Then you say, aren't you Republicans all about small government? Are you all about government non-interference? So we'll see where they at with that, right? Anyway, moving on. Before I get out of here, I want to make it real quick. I want to talk about Richard Dreyfuss. Says that the new inclusive changes implemented for next year's Oscars make him vomit. The categories are on-screen representation, creative leadership, and project team, industry access and opportunities, and audience advancement. Listen, on-screen representation is classified as at least one lead character from an underrepresented racial or ethnic group, having at least 30% of secondary roles be from two underrepresented groups, or the main storyline has to focus on an unrepresented group. Come on now. I don't think that's asking too much. It says it says according to the Academy, and underrepresented groups are women, people of color, people who identify as LGBTQ, and people with a disability. The new standards are meant to encourage diversity on and off the screen. This is good stuff. Now, I love Richard Dreyfuss, right? He's been in some good movies that I've loved. But I also understand this is an older white male. And when you've had privilege all your life, equality looks like oppression. So that's what this is another case of. I've said the same thing about Bill Maher. I love Bill Maher. But you're an older white man. And the default has always been the way you're used to seeing things. So what I mean is, Mr. Dreyfuss, the default in Hollywood has always been for characters to be portrayed by white people, whether they're black characters or white characters, and that's just the way it's been. So then people sit back and say, well, look, we don't need things like that. We didn't, and it was the same argument people used to make against affirmative action. We don't need that. People should be based on their skills and their character, and they should get the part because they were the best person for the part, yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. That does not happen. Unfortunately, we live in the real world where people tend to seek out people who look like them. And those are the people who they hire, and those are the people who they give roles. Now, sometimes when you put stipulations in there, 30% of the staff has to be people of color. Some of this other stuff they got. Then you start to see the change that you see. And I have seen a whole lot more disabled people in shows. I've seen a whole lot more minorities in shows. And I was wondering why. Now I know why from reading this article. Now they have to do it. A lot of times, that's just how it's going to be. Because equality does not come because people are nice or had a change of heart. A lot of times you have to change laws, you have to change legislation. I think it's Hillary Clinton who said that. You don't change hearts and minds, you change laws, you change legislation. Now, a friend of mine who's not necessarily a friend of mine no more because it was the conversation we're having were painful just because this guy isn't living in reality with me, whatever. He had told me that his older grandfather came from that day of racism, right? But he said a lot of his views or whatever were changing. Why? Because laws had changed. And he said, well, you know what I'm saying? The law has changed. And now such and such, these minorities are protected. And if the law protects them, then we have to adhere to the law. This is a country of laws. I adhere to the law. He didn't say that I respect these people as human beings. He didn't say I see the error of mine in some of my ancestors' ways and we should have went ahead and been being humans to people who are human beings anyway. They just have a different shade of skin. He said the laws have changed, ergo my behavior has to change. So sometimes it's like that, ladies and gentlemen, right? So the Oscar has changed their laws. So now the laws for making a movie or at least getting accepted in the Oscars has changed. Now, how about this? I make a movie. I don't give a damn about an Oscar or any of that crap. You know what I'm saying? But it's just like Drake said about the Grammy. I just gave out Grammys on my Instagram. I don't know why all these rappers and singers give a hoot about a Grammy. Some people do. Some people do care about an Oscar. And it's good to see that the Oscars is at least going to hold your feet to the fire and be like, man, were there any people of color in that movie? Were there any women in that movie? Were there any disabled people in that movie? If not, we're not recognizing it as a real movie. I'm sorry, Mr. Dreyfuss. You know what I call that? Progress, my friend. Welcome to 2023. And some of these people who don't like progress, who don't like things change, you know what I say to them? Oh, well, you can't stop it. My dad always told me progress is a train. You either get on it or get left behind. And Mr. Dreyfuss, you can get on it or get left behind. That's my time, ladies and gentlemen. What can I say? I'm Phys Ed Music. This is Urban Politics. Want to thank you all for liking and subscribing as you do. Please, after this video, take your cell phone over to YouTube. Like and subscribe. Phys Ed Music, Urban Politics. But what can I say, ladies and gentlemen? As always, see you around. like a donut.